K-pop goes beyond just the music, but a lot of the time what we are actually consuming is not representative of what's actually going on in Korea.
There are certain things that it's convenient to pull from Korean culture, but there are other things that definitely are not.
10-step Korean skincare routine. Is that even real?
It's real on my TikTok feed.
It sold a lot of products.
Yeah. There's companies that are specifically marketing towards kids and preteens now.
Yeah.
Mixed feelings.
I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm like,
No, it's true though. It's like, it's never going to be enough.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beauty by the Beaker. I'm Sadie.
And I'm Natalie.
And this is a podcast where science gets a hot new makeover.
It does. And this is also the podcast where I'm going to try to not have as bad a vocal fry.
There's only so much we can do.
Here's the thing. Let's stop hating women for vocal fry. First of all, because heaven forbid a woman just have a raspy voice.
Literally.
But sometimes I inherited poor nasal passageways from a man.
Mind you.
And that's why my voice is like this. But I'm going to do my best to speak not through my nose.
I've also been trying to work on my upspeak and maybe not doing that as much. So we both
like the question thing?
Yeah. We both have things we're trying to work on. Bear with us, guys. We're only 40 episodes in. So.
Seriously. It's crazy how having a podcast makes you so aware of the shortcomings of the way you speak.
Literally. I'm like, if we ever start getting hate comments about like, these girls are annoying, trust me, we know.
Yeah.
You don't even have to comment because we have to listen to ourselves.
No one hates us more than us.
Exactly.
So. Do your worst, I dare you, in the comments. Please.
And while you're at it, like and subscribe.
Yeah. Statistics show that most of the people listening to this episode are not subscribed. So please subscribe.
Today's episode is going to be a continuation of last week where Nat told us about the history of K-beauty. We're continuing that conversation. I don't really know what we're chatting about, but we're going to chat about it.
Yeah, like Sadie said, I wanted to bring some context to K-beauty on this podcast. I feel like it is a global phenomenon, and we obviously had to talk about it, but it's a huge subject. So last week we talked about it, and this week we're talking about it again.
We love a two-parter over here.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch last week's episode, go check that one out. We're talking more about like ancient history of Korea and but we're doing our best to give a little bit of context to how K-beauty developed, which in order to do that, we do have to look back at the more ancient and honestly, prehistoric history of Korea, which we did last week.
Yes.
So we won't bore you. Well, it's not boring. It's actually very interesting.
We won't recap it here.
Yeah, we won't recap it here. That's a great way to put it because we just simply don't have the time.
It was a whole episode's worth, so, you know.
But last week we left you off on the idea of Hallyu, or the Korean wave. A little bit of recap. At the end of the 90s, there was a Korean financial crisis. And they had to kind of rebuild their economy. And the president at the time, they had been putting some effort into media. Mm-hmm. But then at this point in the late 90s, they lifted a ban on media going to like Japan and stuff so that they could globalize their media, make it so it wasn't just for Koreans. It was going to be for outside of the borders. Mm-hmm. Hallyu is often broken up into two parts. Mm-hmm. So the first one is what we were just talking about. They need to rebuild and they start making media and it goes to mostly Japan and China. And it was a huge success. This was in the late 90s. And that was kind of a proving point to them that Korean media could go beyond Korea. It could cross borders and resonate with other people, which gave them the confidence to keep going, but it wasn't the boost that birthed K-beauty.
Right.
There is a quote from the president in 1998 that says, "We must pour our energy into globalizing Korean culture. Tourism, the convention industry, the visual industry, and special cultural commodities are a treasure trove for which a limitless market is awaiting." So that's kind of the idea of Hallyu, is that there is a cultural phenomenon here that if we can get the people interested in it, we can ramp up our exports.
Yes.
And the way that they got the people interested was through the media.
That makes sense.
They start doing TV shows and they're good.
Were they K-dramas or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly K-dramas. Did I already say that this is often called Hallyu 1.0?
Not today.
Okay. As it spread into other neighboring countries, that's called Hallyu 1.0. Or
First iteration.
Yeah. So that happened in the late 90s and it was kind of a rise, but then it started to kind of die out a little bit. One thing to note about Hallyu, one thing that makes it work so well is that Korea sees their media as like an export product. So they're going to only put out products that are perfect. Kind of like how if you were selling a beauty product, if it's damaged in any way or the label's not put on correctly or the formula wasn't made correctly, they're not going to sell the product.
Yeah.
The same thing kind of goes with their media, which is why it's so successful, is they put a lot of money and government assistance into the media.
Is the main point to drive more tourism? Is it to make more money off of the media that they're producing? Is it kind of like a mixture of both? Like what's like the end goal?
So that's a good question. A lot of this had to do with the fact that their economy was really bad. After like all the wars and then the financial crisis, they had to completely rebuild. They had to take a loan from like the World Bank. That was one of the biggest loans that had ever been given. Yeah, it was pretty bad. The other thing that really put Korea in a tough place kind of politically and economically was because of like US involvement and them being situated in a place with North Korea, being on like the southern peninsula of North Korea. The US has been, the US has a tendency to get involved and stay involved.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here. So after the Korean War, the US, I don't know the exact details. Again, this is not my strong suit, but they basically said, if you guys do any like manufacturing of war-related things, we have to approve of it and know about it because of the risk of spreading communism through North Korea. Yeah. So basically the US said like, South Korea, you cannot manufacture war-related things. So Hallyu was specifically kind of a workaround that. So instead of infiltrating other countries with military force, they were using a form of soft power to gain influence in countries. So basically it works its way into culture and then makes you, I don't want to say like empathetic to Korean culture, but it is just like this understanding and like awareness of the culture.
Right.
To where it then boosts their economy and their tourism and their exports of like beauty products, food, and other movies and things like that. Because you watch a movie and you see the characters like eating food. You're like, oh, that looks really good. I kind of want to try that. And so then you go out and go to a Korean restaurant, which I've already noticed this. I didn't really, before I had like studied what Hallyu was, obviously like K-beauty is popular.
Yeah.
I've noticed Korean products in the grocery store, like Korean instant coffee and like these, it's like mac and cheese almost, like a ramen, like a cup noodles cup, but it's like a rice mac and cheese. That's a Korean thing.
That sounds fire, actually.
Yeah. But like the packaging is so cute and stuff for these things that and like looks so aesthetic. I can definitely see how the exports catch on because already even just being a fan of K-beauty, I've seen myself drift into other areas.
Yeah.
Which is the point. It's designed that way. It's not luck. It is supposed to be that way.
It's super intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a you catch more flies with honey sort of situation. Where it's like if we can make people love our culture, then it's so much easier. I mean, that's obvious. That's like with anything. But yeah, people I feel like are very like loyal to Korean culture almost in a way that I don't feel like they have that loyalty to like European or other cultures. Yeah. And it seems like it's because they've been so intentional with their advertising.
Yeah. So Hallyu 2.0 started with the rise of global streaming platforms. That was really what like started it, was the fact that Netflix shows and Spotify and all of these things made it so that Korean media could be shared globally quite easily. No longer doing like exporting DVDs and stuff. It's like, you could just get online and see a whole section of Korean media.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, let's maybe jump back, follow some of the K-beauty that was happening in Korea before. So we talked a lot about Amore Pacific. They're a huge company. They are one of the oldest K-beauty companies. A mom who taught her son how to use camellia oil for hair treatments and to make lotions and creams. And then he took it and made it into a big company. And that became Amore Pacific, which the name Amore Pacific is a representation of his goal to sell beauty products globally across the Pacific. And in 2003, he died, but company obviously continued thriving. But in 2006, just as kind of like an indicator, it was selling 90% of its products domestically and was just starting to move into like other parts of Asia.
Oh, wow.
So that was 2006.
So it really didn't like start to cross into other countries for a long time.
K-beauty is a very interesting part of Hallyu, and a lot of Hallyu scholars kind of try to ignore it. They call it like the $1 billion elephant in the room. Because K-beauty is a very, very difficult metric to track, unlike other aspects of Hallyu are. So the big ones are K-pop, K-dramas, food, beauty products, and fashion, probably. Fashion, beauty. With almost all of those other ones, there's like a number that you can track. You can track like box office sales. You can track album sales. Mm-hmm. You can track exports. But with beauty stuff, especially like beauty trends, there's not like a real way that you can track that. It's something that just happens. And a lot of it is kind of seen as just women things.
Yeah.
You know, so
which are automatically less important.
Exactly. So it's like, oh, that's just what women are doing. And they don't actually think about where those things came from.
Yeah, because I'm sure the export of the physical beauty products is just like one small aspect of the influence of K-beauty.
Yes.
So yeah, that might be easy to track, but other aspects are probably really difficult.
Yeah. And I think that is such a big part of it, is that a lot of the spread of K-beauty is kind of a byproduct of the other areas of Korean exports. So something that I think is very interesting is that, like I said, Korea puts a lot of effort into making their media really like meaningful and really resonate with people. But for that same reason, movie stars and K-pop idols are almost like public figures as well. Like they are responsible for being like faces of Korea. Like almost mascots of Korea. I don't know if that's like dehumanizing to say, but like...
It is kind of the truth though. Like they're held to an incredibly high standard, like behaviorally. And I've heard that there's a lot also that happens behind the scenes to make sure that they represent Korea well.
Yeah. A little fun fact to throw in here. BTS has tied the Beatles for most chart-topping albums.
That's crazy.
And BTS alone generates $5 billion to the Korean economy every single year.
That's crazy. Especially because they took a hiatus because all of them went and served in the military.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a world tour. And I know someone who went to the tour, and like in Vegas specifically, they had to add on shows because there was so much demand. They were like, no, we need more.
Yeah.
Like, and that's after not producing anything for however many years. So like their fan base is so loyal.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. $5 billion.
I know. It's actually insane. But yeah, like you said, the fandoms, that is also kind of a manufactured product of Korean exports. So the fandom culture is also something that we get from Korea.
Yeah.
So they kind of took the idea of being a fan and turned it into the idea that you can be almost a co-creator. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So like the fandoms are so involved. It's like they get a name. Like they feel like they're part of the production. You can buy like almost like baseball cards of the like Korean idols and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. There will be like voting type things or things where you kind of like weigh in and have a say of like how things are happening, which that whole kind of idea stems from.
K-pop?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there also a reason why their groups are so big? There are like 9 people in a K-pop group. Like you just don't really see that in US-based groups.
Yeah.
I wonder if like having more people allows more fans to like choose who they like.
Possibly. K-pop is very specifically a visual genre. So like, again, that plays into the whole Hallyu idea. K-pop goes beyond just the music, which is good. Usually the music is really like meaningful and it connects with a lot of audiences, which is why people like it. But beyond that, they like the music videos and the fashion and the dancing and all of that goes with it, which we've seen with other groups and stuff too. But it's not the same that we have here where like you can just kind of make a band with your friends and like start posting things online and like hope you take off. If you plan on being in K-pop, you like train for it. And you go to a school and like dance and sing and learn how to be a performer and stuff.
Aren't there even like Netflix shows that are like finding the next K-pop group? Or
Probably.
Didn't that happen with Cat's Eye? I don't know if Cat's Eye is a K-pop group specifically.
Cat's Eye is an interesting one because they are a K-pop group, but they're like, and this is also fascinating to me. They are a joint venture formed between an American production company and a Korean production company.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense. They seem very K-pop group-esque.
Yeah. The way that I kind of saw it was a lot of the idea behind this is integrating Korean culture in a way that it just feels more like normal. I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to talk about because I think one thing I do want to note is that I think Western cultures have often kind of fetishized Eastern Asian cultures. And also thought of it as being very exotic, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of like Korean beauty trends or I don't know, even like food or culture and stuff is kind of seen as being like weird or like the snail mucin. People are like, oh, that's so gross.
Yeah.
You know? Which it isn't that gross. It's like people use way grosser things in the US. It's like part of the fact that it came from Eastern Asia. People have kind of a pre-built-in bias. And a lot of the goal of Hallyu is to, I don't know, kind of like normalize a lot of it, you know? Like, I don't know how to really explain it.
No, that makes sense. It just like make it more attainable almost so that it's not as crazy of a concept.
Yeah.
She's like, no, this is just like something that you do.
I think the other side of this is that the media that we are seeing is kind of, it's been called like the Korean dream. So the pursuit of wealth and comfort in Korea and being able to afford all of the commercial luxuries that you would want. The intention is kind of a marketing thing. Yeah. So to get us to buy Korean specific products. But a lot of the time what we are actually consuming is not representative of what's actually going on in Korea and like what actual Koreans are doing. And so while it does feel like a normalizing of Korean culture, it's almost a normalizing of another caricature of Korean culture and not really like, it's still very like dramatized and almost fetishized version of it.
Yeah.
So
it's also, it seems to be very much pick and choose.
Yeah.
When it comes to the things like, for example, Koreans and a lot of East Asians take sun protection extremely seriously. And that is something that's starting to become more common in the US. But like people constantly tell me to tan still. They're like, just go sit in the sun. Like you'll get a tan. Like, you know, and so like there are certain things that it's convenient to pull from Korean culture, but there are other things that definitely are not. Like things that we just choose to ignore, kind of.
Yeah, I agree. And I think going off of the sun protection thing, to your point, sun protection is a huge part of Korean and East Asian culture. But Korea, they take it pretty far. Even the government supports staying out of the sun on bright sunshiny days. They'll line the street with umbrellas so that you can stay in the shade while you walk.
My dream.
Yeah. I have this statistic that says that 90% of Korean women and 56% of men apply sunscreen at all times.
Wow.
Compared to in the US, 30% of women and 14% of men apply sunscreen at all times.
That's crazy.
That is quite the comparison.
Yeah, that's insane, actually. And like, This is another thing that bothers me too, is that people look at K-beauty and they're like, oh my God, their skin is so beautiful. Like, I need to buy a 10-step routine and do all the same things that they're doing. And it's like, their skin is so incredible because they take sun protection so seriously. Like, they'll have full UV protection clothing while they're driving their cars.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly serious to them. And so I would love to see that part of their culture kind of start to make its way over to the US.
I would too, especially because, interestingly, timing-wise, people are hating on Anne Hathaway. Did you see the picture of her in her full UFP getup on a yacht?
No, but go her.
Let me show you.
Is it UFP or UPF?
UPF. Okay. Sorry, UPF.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to see.
Yeah. It's like UV protection factor, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
People are like, she looks so unhappy. I'm like, why?
Okay, you know what? It's not fun to have to wear UPF clothing, but like it's also not fun to get skin cancer. So
people are up in arms about it here.
They're like, Anne, I can't believe you're wearing this. Okay. Well, I'm up in arms because that's the most hideous pattern I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're not the cutest patterns, I guess.
She looks like she's from the Avatar movie in that one.
Yeah. But people were so mad just saying she looked like she was having no fun.
That's why Anne Hathaway still looks incredible. Because she wears UPF clothing.
Exactly. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of
so funny.
Funny timing that's still very much not considered normal in the US. In fact, if you do it, you may draw concern from your audience.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit last week, but a lot of the reason for staying out of the sun and taking that so seriously is that in Korean culture, skincare is very much seen as preventative and not treatment based.
Yes.
So the best way to deal with acne is to never get acne. Not that you can just choose
wish.
Yeah.
But like the idea of it.
Yeah.
Or sunspots or whatever.
Yes. And there are obviously like pros and cons to this because obviously a perfect complexion, blemish free, start to create like biases in like looksism and things like that.
Yes.
Again, I got a lot of my information for today's episode from a book called Flawless Lessons in Korean Beauty and Culture. I don't remember the full title. I'm so sorry.
It'll be
linked. It's by Elise Hugh and it will be linked. She talked about this concept that is still very prevalent today in modern society of gold spoon, silver spoon, and dirt spoon. We talk about like you have a silver spoon, like you were
born with a silver spoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the silver spoon is kind of the same, but then gold spoon is like even higher than that. Like you're going to get the best education, your family has a lot of money and you're like set for life. Mm-hmm. And then there's dirt spoon, which is like you have to work for everything. This idea has created another attempt at breaking out of stereotypes. We see that all the time. You know, like people don't want to look poor, so they go to certain lengths to do things. And then often they become stereotyped for doing that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of this like damned if they do, damned if they don't idea.
Yeah.
That happens to women all over the world. But in Korean history, we saw it with the modern girl and the factory girl. And then again, in more modern history, we see it with the soybean paste girl. So this is the idea. There's a dish, and I don't know the name of it, I'm sorry, but it's like a soybean paste that can be made into like a stew or a soup, and it's a really cheap dinner thing. And the soybean paste girl is a girl who's so consumed with luxury pursuits and items that she skips on her meals and only eats soybean paste.
Interesting.
Yeah. They're seen as very like vain and materialistic. Mm-hmm. But again, if you live in a culture where looks are very important, you do get put in this kind of tricky situation of like feeling the need to overcome your social status by looking wealthier.
Yeah.
I think that's common everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's not uncommon for people who don't have a lot of money to spend what they do have on luxury items.
Yeah, this is reminding me of like the episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City where Monica is crying over buying a bag.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I just want to look.
Like fit in.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So the pressure is everywhere.
I bought a bag.
He's like sobbing about it.
It is, yeah. And like,
It is a sad scene.
yeah, like
but
we can make fun of it, but it is like the societal pressure to fit in is so strong sometimes. Yeah. It is interesting how beauty can do that. You will like neglect more essential parts of your life in order to look like you're doing better than you actually are.
Yep.
Fascinating.
I know, it's crazy. And it sucks that it's that way, but unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
That is. I've been jumping around my notes a lot. So let's go back to some of these specific Korean beauty trends throughout this time period. The first notable Korean companies, we kind of talked about them already, like Amore Pacific. But there was a company called Missha that launched in 2000. They were exclusively online at BeautyNet.
Is that a Korean website?
But you could buy Missha products online. They had a bunch of different types of products and they all retailed for around $3 each.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unlike typical companies at the time who kind of differentiated themselves based on exclusivity. Like the idea for other companies was our product is only for the select few and like you could be lucky enough to get your hands on it. You know, like that's kind of, that's still a lot of how marketing is like, are you going to be the lucky one to have this product?
Yep.
Missha was very the opposite of that, where they were demonstrating the low cost of producing these types of products and the high markups. And they focused on just like high quality, simple products, low cost, really like no frills packaging. Very simple. I want to say they're kind of like the first Ordinary.
Yeah, I was just going to draw that comparison.
Yeah, it seems pretty similar, but like exclusively online. But then in 2002, they became so popular that they started their first like brick and mortar store. And it was the first ever standalone cosmetic shop, which this becomes a very popular thing. But at the time, this was the first of its kind.
In Korea specifically, or like everywhere?
I think kind of everywhere.
Wow.
Because I don't really remember. I mean, I was 6. I don't remember anything. I don't remember much. But I don't know. Weigh in if you remember them before. But before, you could get cosmetics at like department stores or retail stores, but there wasn't like a dedicated store that would just sell one brand's cosmetic until Missha opened their store in 2002. And this was called a road shop. It's on the road, it's a shop, and it's just theirs. You don't have to like walk into a bigger store to look. You can like park your car and go in.
Okay, cute. And it was just Missha stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this was separate from something like a Sephora or like an Olive Young in Korea.
Yep. Okay.
And then in 2009, the LG acquired
the phone company or
the household company,
the TV company.
Yeah, they do it all because they also acquired the Face Shop.
Oh,
which is another road shop.
The Face Shop?
Yeah.
Doesn't ring any bells for me.
But they were really known for face masks.
Oh.
The face mask is very much of Korean beauty.
That makes sense.
And then Amore Pacific shortly after opened their first road shop, Innisfree.
I love Innisfree.
And then it wasn't until about 2011 when the first K-beauty product went viral. We talked about this a little bit a couple episodes ago when we talked about makeup that has skin benefits. BB cream was the first K-beauty product that really put K-beauty on the map. So we talked about this before, but BB cream was invented in Germany by a dermatologist, but it was kind of a cakey medical cream. Korea was the first one to transform that concept into like an everyday, flowy, lightweight foundation with SPF. So yeah, pretty cool. Costtree, have you heard of them? Costtree?
I don't think so.
Well, they made the first Korean beauty cream in 2006. And the global sales were pretty good. They swept into Asian markets and then into European markets. And then in 2011, made it to the US. After that, so the traditional BB cream was sold in like a tube. And shortly after the success of that, Korean companies developed the cushion. Have you heard of the BB cream cushion?
No.
It's like a compact with a little cushion on the inside that has the liquid foundation in it, kind of, and you like absorb it with the cushion and then put it on. So it's kind of like I don't know how to really describe it other than that.
It makes sense. Is it basically like it's like a powder compact? It's just liquid?
Yeah, kind of. I picture it kind of like those packages that I hate.
Oh, yeah.
But if they had more holes and a pad thing, a cushion on top of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the product's in the bottom and then you kind of like press it onto the cushion.
And like pump it out almost.
Yeah, but the cushion like absorbs it. So you don't see like liquidy powder. Mm-hmm. It's like if you were to squeeze a makeup sponge directly into the product dispenser.
How do you feel about that?
Personally, I see issues with it. Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like you can't really control how much product you're adding to your face very well, right?
Well, I think that the idea is the cushion kind of can only hold so much.
I guess I just like to, like when I'm applying stuff with a sponge, I like dilute it on my hand kind of to like make it even and then I put it on my face.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but
yeah.
Also a little bit scared of like any bacterial repercussions you could have.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest thought process. It's probably fine. I mean, because there are preservatives in the product and
yeah,
I'm guessing a lot of these products are low in water content, but obviously as we have seen, reverse emulsions or like foundation type, oily type products, they're not immune from bacterial infections. So it is possible. And that is kind of the first thing I thought is like, you wouldn't really be able to clean it that well.
Yeah.
You just kind of be putting it back in there. But I don't know. I guess that's kind of the same as like a lip gloss or something.
Or like my contour sponge that I use that just has the product just sits there. There's probably so much bacteria in that thing.
Yeah. The contour sponge is honestly probably I would guess that concept comes from the idea of this cushion.
Because, you just squeeze the product onto the sponge.
It's like connected, like a pen almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would guess that this is very similar. But by 2013, 7 out of 10 Korean women carried one of these cushions.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Carried it on their person.
Whoa.
I don't carry any makeup products with me. Maybe like a lip gloss or something.
Yeah. I'll have a lip balm typically.
Yeah. I'll do like a tinted lip balm.
Yeah. That's the extent of my reapplication.
Yeah, same. But yeah.
Wow.
7 out of 10.
That's pretty popular.
Yeah. We're probably going to do a part 3 where we talk more about the specific ingredients that you can find in K-beauty. A lot of the idea, again, is more Korean culture is what is kind of selling here. Mm-hmm. So a lot of K-beauty products will feature heritage ingredients like ginseng, rice water, mugwort, camellia, etc. We'll do another episode where we talk more about the specific ingredients, but we obviously cannot end a K-beauty recap without talking about the 10-step Korean skincare routine.
Oh, yeah.
Because is that even real?
It's real on my TikTok feed, but like how often are they actually doing that?
Not that often.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. The Korean 10-step skincare routine is not really a Korean invention at all. Well, I mean, it was invented by a Korean person, but in America.
Really?
Yeah.
When was it invented?
The idea of a 10-step Korean skincare routine was introduced in April of 2014.
No way.
Yes.
That's so recent.
Yeah. And it was by the founder of Soko Glam, Charlotte Cho.
Okay.
Charlotte Cho?
I don't think so.
She's she's an entrepreneur. She made Soko Glam, which was like an online marketplace. Mm-hmm. So they were selling Korean beauty products online. They followed like a skin first philosophy. So emphasizing the importance of skincare in your routine. Mm-hmm. They're also a business.
So important that you have to do 10 steps.
Yeah. Charlotte Cho, the founder of Soko Glam, is the first one who talked about these 10 steps. And she's very clear about the fact that she was identifying 10 steps that could be done. You have 10 products in a routine.
Okay.
And the user could pick and choose between those 10 products and build a routine custom for their skin from that.
Okay.
But obviously,
it was interpreted a little differently.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely misinterpreted. And people started feeling like the idea was that Korean people got their perfect skin by completing these 10 steps every single day, morning and night.
Who cares about the sunscreen?
Well, sunscreen is one of the steps.
I'm sure it is, the last one, but still.
Yeah. You may be asking, what are the 10 steps? Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Step 1, oil cleanser, gel cleanser, exfoliator, toner, essence, serum, sheet mask, eye cream, moisturizer, sunscreen.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And the reason why a lot of Korean women or men don't actually do this is because it's a lot.
Yeah, that's so much.
And because a lot of the emphasis in skincare is on prevention and maintenance of a good complexion. And mixing 10 products together on your face is an invitation for irritation.
Yes.
So that's a big reason why it's not actually very popular there is potential for irritation.
Well, and also if you start to break out from something, you have 10 different things now you have to figure out what's breaking you out. Or it could be a combo of things. Like, yeah.
From a study done, most people, it was shown, there obviously are variations to this, but most people will use a foaming cleanser and then 2 different like treatment type steps, like an essence or a toner or serum or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 different steps and then a sunscreen.
Yeah, that feels like a good routine.
That's a lot more manageable. And that was kind of the idea behind it. But when the idea that all 10 steps took off, I don't think there was a lot of like pullback and like attempt to correct it because it sold a lot of products.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what is at the foundation of the 10-step Korean skincare routine is using Korean products. Yep. Because the idea is that Korean products are lightweight and meant for layering, whereas like American and French products are not.
Yeah, you just accidentally created like a huge marketing campaign for yourself to sell a ton of products.
Yeah. So because Charlotte Cho has SokoGlam, which is like an online marketplace for Korean beauty, she has started marketing like, here's your 10-step starter kit where it's like 10 steps that you buy all at once. So it's not like she's trying to dispel like, you don't really need to use 10 at once. It's like she will say that and say like, I just kind of said this and it got taken out of context. But here are 10 steps that you can buy on my website.
Oh, you know? Yeah.
Which is fine. Like while researching the episode and stuff, I have been playing around with the idea of more skincare products. And I think that if you do research into all of them, here's the thing. I'm a cosmetic formulation chemist, so I know how a lot of these things do work together. So it's a lot easier for me to be like, I'm not going to use these products together because I know they're going to cause irritation.
Yep.
I'm going to choose like a toner and essence that are essentially the same thing, just one's a little bit thicker. You know, like being able to reason with it in that way, but that's not the luxury that most people have. And it's really expensive to maintain a 10-step skincare routine.
Yeah. I think that for some people, like I've gotten to the point where I really enjoy the ritual of a skincare routine. And so my routine's probably a little bit longer because of that. Like there are products that I'm sure I could cut out, but I enjoy applying them and seeing the results from them. So I think as long as you go into it knowing that and not assuming that you need to buy 10 products that will completely transform your skin. If you're like, well, I want to do 10 products because I like the ritual. That's fine. Just be aware of any possible issues that could arise from that. But yeah, you definitely do not need 10 skincare products in your routine.
No, you don't. But you do need sunscreen.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Keep doing that.
Yeah.
And at the root of all of this, the idea is that the first half of the Korean skincare routine, the first half of the 10 steps is focused on cleansing and the back half is focused on hydration. And those are like the 2 key pillars, cleansing, hydration, and then obviously sun protection. But that's taken a little bit further with not just beauty products, but actual clothing and hats and sunglasses and things like that.
Like practicing safe sun.
Yes.
Staying out of it when you can.
Yeah. So whether or not that's actually what's happening, Korea has become a really big exporter of products. By 2020, they were the 3rd largest global exporter of cosmetics, only behind France and the US. And they have companies that like only export. There's companies like Wish Trend. Have you ever heard of Wish Trend?
Mm-mm.
I haven't either, but I guess you can get them at like Claire's and Urban Outfitters. And they're a Korean company, but they don't actually even sell in Korea. They only export to other countries. And then the government gives them like a tax break if they can prove that they sold them globally, like outside of Korea.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So there's incentive for that. But then again, that gives kind of like a distorted image of what is actually happening in Korea.
Yeah.
There has been like a big wave of like beauty tourism and stuff. In Seoul, there's a district called Gangnam, which kind of the beauty capital of Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get skincare treatments and go to like spas. And there, a lot of that work is very normalized and accepted as part of like your wellness routine, I guess. In the book that I read, she said that when so much emphasis is put on appearance, there's also time dedicated to achieving that goal. So like people start getting injections really young or like start going to spas young, like kids go to spas and stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's starting to kind of happen a little bit more in the US.
Yeah.
Like there's companies that are specifically marketing towards kids and preteens now.
Yeah.
Mixed feelings.
The last note, maybe, that I'll leave on. You talked about how you're already seeing that, like people marketing to kids and obviously taking time in your appearance and investing in skincare and more of like a holistic health approach. Like there are benefits to that, but obviously when it's rooted in beauty, which is very subjective and it's usually companies who are setting the beauty standards, there can be some big issues with that. This quote from the book: "What does consumer beauty culture lead to if left unconsidered and unchecked?"
It's a good question.
Yeah, because we see a rise in like borderline dangerous things that are happening, you know, like with injections and plastic surgery. And we talked about it with looks maxing, but like people are starting to question these procedures and be like, is this safe to do?
Yeah.
And a lot of that has been left a little bit unchecked where people are just going and getting these procedures done without really a lot of research done into the efficacy and safety and long-term results of these things.
Especially in the age of TikTok, where you just like watch 1 or 2 TikTok videos and then decide that that's enough research. And there's even less research into things now, I feel like.
Yeah. So I'm going to end on this quote. It's from the book. "Sure, we're talking about skincare, but another way I begin to think about steps is as a stand-in as gargantuan amounts of appearance cultivation, decoration, and performance. And not just with beauty products. It extended into how women and girls are expected to behave, dictating how much autonomy we have over our bodies and how much time we have in our days. Viewed this way, it's not 10 steps, but hundreds or thousands. And the steps are never done. The labor is never complete." I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm like,
No, it's true though. It's like, it's never going to be enough.
Yeah.
Which is the most, I think that's something that's like a theme that I feel like we keep coming back to when we do episodes of this podcast as well. It's just like, it feels like no matter how hard we try, no matter how much we try to do what society wants us to do, it's never enough. And so when you see something like a 10-step skincare routine, it sucks that it's not even crazy. It's just kind of like, oh, like, yeah, of course, 10 steps, let me do it. Like, we're just constantly trying to achieve this standard that's unachievable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the very last thing that I wanted to highlight is kind of just the dark sides of taking beauty to that level and making it that much of an importance in your routine. It starts to feel very overwhelming for people. So
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's all I have for this episode, I think.
Yeah. No, that was great. Very interesting to learn about Hallyu and kind of how intentional K-beauty, like the rollout of K-beauty in Korean culture has been, and kind of see how it's impacted our culture. Yeah. Because it's had a very big impact.
Yeah. And definitely positives and negatives that come from it. If there's anything I can leave you on, why don't you go use a nice oil cleanser and then have some cup bop.
Yeah.
I don't actually really like cup bop that much.
Me either. Sorry, it's way too spicy for me.
That's not why I dislike it. But
why do you dislike it?
I don't know. It's just not my thing. You should go have cup bop anyway. A lot of people like it.
Yeah. A lot of big fans.
Last time I went there was the day after I left my job, so.
Well, that was quite an emotional time, so I can see why. Oh my gosh.
Well, if you want to learn more about Korean culture and Korean beauty. I highly, highly recommend the book. I thought it was really great. I obviously can't come anywhere close to covering all the things that she covered in the book. So go check that out. And then,
while you're checking things out, go check out our website, beautyxbeaker.com, where all of Nat's show notes and sources will be. You can also check us out on all of our socials at BeautyXBeaker everywhere. And our personal pages, I am Sadie BXB.
And I am Nat BXB.
And we would both love it if you like, subscribe, comment on this video, do all the things. And other than that, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
사랑해요.
Cute. I almost said arigato gozaimasu.